In the past, I used some virtual college tours as a part of my first generation college going small group that I did with juniors and seniors. And it's a whole session as a part of this small group that I would do those college tours, and it still is. But when the free Google option disappeared for me, I knew that I needed to find a replacement and quickly to help students get exposed to college tours, especially those students who didn't necessarily have the time or the resources or the family support to get there. I actually went to you, the listeners and followers, and asked what you were using. Overwhelmingly, a lot of you came back and said the college tour. It's now a favorite resource of mine, and I always recommend it to high school counselors who are looking for a really helpful resource for their students. Let me tell you about the college tour. This show is so well produced. In this week's episode, I get the pleasure of interviewing the host of the show, Alex Boylan. You'll hear Alex's story woven in here and there as he alludes to going through this process himself years ago and then more recently with his niece. And you'll hear him talk about some behind the scenes of the college tour and why the college tour keeps moving forward doing what they're doing, kind of their mission behind what they're doing. I'm going to host a TV host on my podcast today, so he's no stranger to the interview process, and I'll introduce you to Alex. Alex Boylan's love of adventure and storytelling has fueled a dynamic career both on camera and behind the scenes. After winning CBS's The Amazing Race, he hosted PBS's #1 food series, At the Chef's Table, and starred in Rachel Ray's Rach to the Rescue. He earned an Emmy nomination for producing The Steve Harvey Show, multiple Webby Awards for Around the World for Free, and an Adrian Award for dream jobbing. As the creator, executive producer, and host of the college tour, Alex has visited more than 150 campuses across the U.S. He offers an authentic insider view of each school's academics, culture, and much more, empowering students and families with vital insights into higher education. Recently named one of EdTech Magazine's top 30 IT higher education influencers to follow, Alex continues to champion the transformative power of learning, shining a light on the endless possibilities college can offer. I know you're going to feel Alex's excited energy through our interview today, and you're going to love what he has to share about the college tour. You got into this profession to make a difference in your students' lives, but you're spread thin by all of the things that keep getting added to your to-do list. I can't create more hours in the day, but I can invite you into my Counselor Click, where you'll finally catch your breath. Come with me as we unpack creative ideas and effective strategies that'll help you be the counselor who leaves a lifelong impact on your students. I'm Lauren Tingle, your high school counseling hype girl, here to help you energize your school counseling program and remind you of how much you love your job. Hey, Alex, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you on for high school counselors to hear about your expertise. So welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Alex, tell us how many colleges you're visiting, I don't know, in a month, in a semester. Like, what kind of rounds are you doing at these colleges? And what's your favorite part of getting to go see them all?
Okay, so, well, we've been doing the college tour for 4 years. So I've probably been on about 180. We've done 180 episodes. I go on every episode to do my host stand-up. So around 180 college campuses. What's my favorite part? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, of like visiting the college campuses.
I mean, there's so many pieces to this. I'm a traveler. My background's doing travel shows. So obviously getting to travel this amazing country and see all these college campuses is awesome. But I just think there's a culture in every place. And so I love that. I love like cool college towns. But for sure, if you're going to pick like the best thing, it's the students. And I always say, I wish I was as far advanced as the students are today back when I was in college, what they're thinking about, how they're critically thinking of where do they want to go and how do they want to make this planet a better place. So it's their stories is what the college tour is all about. But like that still is the best part of my job is getting to meet these real college students, getting to figure out the next path in life and getting fired up about that.
Well, I think that's the sign of a good host, too. Like, it's like you want to see the people, you want to talk to the people and kind of use them to uncover the personality of the campus. That's neat.
That was it. That was it from the beginning of creating this series when my niece couldn't figure out where to go to college. And my background's travel adventure shows. I have no business being higher education. But as I went through the college search process with her and was overwhelmed, confused, how do I figure things out? That's where this all came to be. It's just amazing. It was from day one. It was like, it's got to be real students. It's got to be real stories or the next generation is not really going to resonate with it. And I think that's the best part. It's like you have this most of the time, obviously, we tell stories of, sometimes it's administrators or presidents, but 99% of the time it's students. So it's a 19, 20-year-old speaking to a 15, 16, 17-year-old. And that's really how it should be.
Totally. And when you get to a campus, do you usually feel it out pretty quickly, like what's going to set this campus or this student body apart from another one, or it takes longer as you get into the interview?
Okay, that's a great question. To make an episode of the college tour, it's 6 months. So there's 2 months of planning that our amazing award-winning producers are working with that college for 2 months, casting students, figuring out what stories to tell, really digging into all those details to, take that campus, bring it to life for television. So by the time I'm stepping in and doing my hosting role, a lot of that's figured out. So I get to have a lot of fun because I just get to, do my hosting role, meet the president, go meet the students, maybe talk to a class. So that role. But early on, if you rewind 4 years ago when we were just beginning to build the series, I was like hands on in every part of the way from the planning process to directing the students. And yeah, every campus has a different culture, has something else that it ticks different. And I think uncovering that is our job. And it's the best job in the world.
Well, it makes a good TV show, right? That you've done your research or you have people who've done the research ahead of time. Because I'm sitting here picturing you walk onto campus like boots on the ground, you put a microphone in front of someone's face. You're like, what are we going to get? Okay, well, it makes sense that you've cast the right students to have the best conversations.
Absolutely. And if do you want me to tell you a funny story
Yes,
of
I
the
would love to
making of
hear.
the college tour? Okay. Early on, very early on, we were concerned about that, right? It was, trying to find this balance of real, authentic storytelling, real students, along with having it real, but you also got to have like a script. So I didn't have scripts at the beginning. The first episode,
You're like, I've got this hosting thing down. Like, we'll figure it
yeah, so
out.
we had casted students and we kind of had a broad picture of what we were doing, but because I didn't want the students to sound like rehearsed or something like that, we didn't. But we quickly realized that does not work because if you just say, "Hey, tell me about your major,"
They're not saying anything of
yeah,
content.
exactly. It's like, what do you want me to say again? So that is where, we really have a meticulous process that after we figure out what story we want to tell and we find the right student that their authentic story tells that story, our team's working with them to write a proper script, media train them, get them comfortable with the camera so it all flows and, the show looks the way it does now. So there's a very meticulous process to get there. But at the end of the day, it's still, we've featured 2,200 students across America. It's awesome. And these are
Yeah.
real students telling real stories.
Well, and it's perfect because then you make sure, like you're saying, you get the right student, obviously, that's comfortable talking to the camera, but also you get to tell all the different stories. If you just happen to run into very similar types of students, it wouldn't be representative of who was at that school. And so you can represent different clubs or activities or majors, all of that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. This goes into the making of it because obviously we're talking to the college and we're starting to pick things like, oh, that's really interesting, or that's a new program, or that's cool. So all these things are going on the board. And of course, we're casting the students and trying to match make. But, we always, every episode, do an open casting call, right? So that goes out to every single student can apply to be on the college tour when we're doing an episode of Featured School. And I'll tell a quick story. We were doing University of Illinois in Champaign. They were never planning on telling a story about the engineering program, but this student, right here, his audition video was it just jumped off the screen. He's like, I grew up in India and I love tinkering with things and, in the junkyard and putting things together. And he didn't really understand even the word engineering, and then figured out that's what he really liked to do. And then found this professor that was building something at University of Illinois Champaign, and it followed the journey of him growing up in India all the way to the University of Illinois Champaign. And now he is like a grad assistant working for that professor, right? And so that's a great story. And I think that's the power of higher education and the college experience that we want to get across to every single young person out there, that there's a pathway out there to find, our job in life as humans is what fires you up, what makes you want to get up in the morning. And college is probably the first avenue you're going to, most of the time, for most humans, right, are going to have where you're inside this playground of opportunity to learn and try new things, right? And so it's like, oh, I don't like this. Okay, let me check that out. Figure out what your interest is. And then, hopefully it drives you to a great career.
I love it. What a gift of that you get to tell those student stories that maybe no one ever thought this was going to be the program you were going to highlight, but his story was so compelling you had to share it.
Absolutely. And we love it because, Imagine thinking high school. Sometimes they're not connecting the dots. Like we're finding that the college tour is helping connect the dots. So, why am I studying geometry or why do I have to take this class in high school?
Oh,
You
we
have to
hear it
take
all.
it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, you hear that. But then when they're watching now, someone just a few years older than them, really interested in aerospace and the physics class they're taking and the application to that, it kind of translates back of like, yeah, this is why you got to learn what you're learning in high school, right? You got to
Yeah.
graduate from here, and then you're going to get into this college, and you're getting to that program, and then you get to, go be that aerospace engineer. So
Yeah. And the parents are having those same conversations around the dinner table, but those dots don't connect when the parent tells them. They have to hear it from you. They have to hear it from their actual campus tour that they go on from somebody else.
one of my favorite, we're very blessed with this series in a lot of different ways, but my favorite emails to receive, and we get them very, very often, are from families. It's like my daughter and I have come together because we watched an episode of the college tour every week. And even if we weren't going there, that brought us together because it got her talking.
Yeah, it got us to stop arguing and it got us
Yeah,
to have a unifying conversation.
exactly. And so that's probably some of the most beautiful feedback that we ever get. It's really cool.
That's great. Well, let's talk about students and parents. How do you think that students and parents, college tour aside, how should they use their time when they go on a college campus? Maybe they've already watched your videos, they've done the prep work. What advice do you have for them when they step on campus?
That's a great question. I would do a couple things. A, write down your questions before you get there, because how many times at the end of the tour, you're like, oh, I wish I asked that, or I wish I saw that. So I for sure would ask, what are you really interested in? And ask those questions. You're on the campus, you spent the time, energy, money to get there. So have those pre-questions like set up. And then think about what you want to see. And I would reach out to the institution because a lot of times, depending, it's not like every single tour is going to be able to bring you through every single building.
Right.
I just went on a tour with one of my younger nieces, and she's fired up about chemistry. And she was a little disappointed because she couldn't get into the chemistry lab. And she's like a chemistry. She's like, I want to see all this stuff. And so I think it's important, if you want to see something specific, to reach out to the institution and ask them. And I think it's like, take full advantage. There's such a support team at every single institution.
Yeah, they want to help them.
They want to help you. And I think that's one of those conversations. I know we live in a new world, but it's like, there's nothing better than picking up the phone. And you would be surprised at how many people are there to help you and answer your questions. And if you're like, here, I'm just making up chemistry because I just went through it. But it's like, I really want to see the chemistry lab. That might not be on the normal basic campus tour, but if you reach out and say that, they might reach out to the dean. They can set it up and they can get you there. So just think through the layers of what you really want to see and speak up about it. And I would highly encourage everyone as well to reach out to the financial aid department. You'd be amazed at how many people are there to support you. And there's a lot of money on the table, not just figuring out FAFSA and that financial aid piece, scholarships. There's teams of people to help guide you. And so anything you can think of, write all that stuff down and reach out to so don't just take the tour, go meet with the financial aid department. Go, if you're meeting, there's a specific department that you want to go see, go do that as well. Really maximize that experience and that time on campus.
Definitely. And these are high school counselors who are listening to this podcast, but I just figured that would be something that they could file away in their mind, because students and parents are asking that during their planning meetings, really happening right now as they're listening to this. So
absolutely,
just thought that would be helpful.
You will get what you ask for. I think it's a metaphor for life. But so
Yeah.
If you just show up and take the normal campus tour, and it's going to be a great experience, and there's nothing that those are amazing. But if you want to go that extra mile and get that extra information, whatever it is, like reach out, get involved. They always say, and we do a lot of digital series where I'm interviewing admissions counselors and financial aid people. And the biggest thing I say is like, please let us know you're interested. Please let us know what your questions are, because it is our job to answer them.
And I think counselors would vouch to say that when you have individual questions that are more specific to a certain situation, they're much more fun conversations. Like those tour guides are saying the same things over and over again, unless you ask them something different.
Exactly.
And they're prepared then to just have a better conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, well, maybe this will be encouraging to you. I asked on Instagram, I think a couple months ago, what counselors were using with their students to enlighten them about college tours. And they're using the college tour. So hopefully that's encouraging to you.
I hope so.
But I want to know if you have heard of any unique ways that counselors are using it in their schools or how they're incorporating it. I don't know if you ever get that feedback from counselors.
That's a great question. We have a team here that we're literally talking to counselors all day long. So just like we just gave advice to parents and students to ask questions. If you're a counselor out there and there's something that you need or that you want, please let us know because we're here to service you. Like we
Yes,
want to
I
make
hope
this
they're
awesome.
hearing that right now to use you as a resource.
I mean, there's a whole specific place if you're a high school counselor to ask us a question. And if you go to thecollegetour.com, literally click on high school counselor. There's a drop down menu there. We have a whole counselor toolkit that you can download with tons of resources and ways to apply our platform, this the content, etc. So that's all there. There's posters, so already pre-made posters that you can print up and put around school and QR codes for students to watch the show. But I would say the thing I love to see at high schools and counselors is when they get this embedded in the classroom. And I'm not saying it happens everywhere, but we get pictures where it's like, it's great when it's amazing when it's a huge auditorium. We're like, wow, what did they do at assembly? And they're watching the college tour. But what we hear a lot is they'll hold back homeroom like once every couple weeks and they'll make the whole like senior class or junior class watch an episode. Or we have a college tour class too on our page that will help get the juices flowing to ask the right questions and how to navigate that. So I think there's lots of different ways to take our resources and, this is what we're built it for. We built it for you high school counselors.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can hear just a couple of those things floating around. Like, it's hard to get everybody together in an auditorium, but a lot of teachers, I mean, even just giving it to your teachers as a resource, like you finish a lesson early and you're looking to fill time. Here, you have this bank of resources for your juniors or your seniors who are actually looking for this information right now, and you can provide it to them.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a favorite college that you have gone to recently? This is probably like picking which is your favorite child. You only have one child, but you've been to 180 campuses. Like, you've got a lot. Where is a standout one that you've been to recently
Oh
that
my gosh.
you loved?
It's the hardest question because it's like no matter how I answer that, I get in trouble. Okay.
I don't want to get you in trouble. Okay.
No, but that being said, I mean, there's so many campuses that I love. And I think it's not about what I love, right? That's not what we do. It's about
We shouldn't be able to tell what you love, I guess, if you're a good
yeah, I mean,
host.
what we want is for you to find the right pathway and find the right option. And whether we've done tribal schools, community colleges, HBCUs, big state schools, small Christian private schools, and everything in between. So it's like finding that right path. So I will say for me, I grew up in Boston. I went to school in Florida because I was trying to get out of the cold weather. So I always say, like, there's a couple of things to be thinking about. Yeah, I think it's the best way to answer. It's like, I think location's an important thing to think about. There's a difference between if I'm going to Columbia College Chicago, fantastic. You're in downtown Chicago. That is a very different feel than if you're at an ag school like Delaware Valley. Another amazing experience in very rural Pennsylvania. And that's different where I was, I'm kind of like a beach bum at heart, right? I wanted to end up at the beach. And so I ended up when I was, checking out, I went to Jacksonville University. I was on the river, had a beach, and then beach wasn't too far away. I was warm weather. It was just who I was and what I was looking for that helped kind of move the needle. But I think location, campus culture, right? Like thinking about that. Who are you? It's like the best part about college is that you're going to meet no matter where you go, different people, think differently than you. And that's half the journey of life. You got this time period to shake up what you think and what you maybe believe and learn from others, which is great. So finding like your tribe is important. As you know, it's like when you go to college, most likely these people are going to stick with you. They're going to be with you through time. And so you're going to help each other with jobs and careers and all that. So trying to find a culture that matters. And obviously, what type of school are you looking for? Some people are looking for religious experiences. Some people are looking for X, Y, and Z. So, and then of course your major. So if you take our class, that's kind of like the four buckets there's a lot of data points when you think of higher education. I think that's where a lot of people get, I don't want to say lost, but I certainly did. It's like confused, overwhelmed when I was starting with my niece, trying to figure out where she should go. And if you just break down those four things, it's a great starting point. Like where it would be a great place that I want to wake up every day and go to college.
Right,
Let's
right.
start there, right? Then I'm happy here, right? And then start like kind of chewing through them, right? What type of campus am I looking for? What's the culture? And of course, diving into a major that you're interested in. I failed at answering your question, by the way.
I know you skirted around what your favorite one, but that makes sense. You took us to a good place of, I often think, well, wow, I didn't really examine the values I was looking for in a college when I was doing the college search. But it's funny when I look back, I think weather was a big one for me that I didn't realize. I also went to school in Florida and I thought often, hey, if this was somewhere cold, I would never go to class. I would fail out because I just wouldn't wanna leave my room. And I didn't realize that until after the fact that, like, oh, that was important to me.
And it is, and it's so fun because I live in LA here. Do you know how many LA people wanna go to school in New England because they want all 4 seasons and they wanna see
Right.
snow? And so you just never know, but it's great to just take a moment and think about it. And some people wanna be close to the family or they need to be close to home. Other ones are like, "I wanna go on the other side of the country," right? And so just having that thought is a big piece of the equation. And I always say, like, whether you're watching I don't wanna keep pushing the college tour, it's not what I'm trying to do here, but, like, what's great about the college, you should get a feeling of the culture, and definitely when you step foot on it, I'd break it down as simple as this: how do you feel? Do you smile? You're like, "This
Right.
feels good." And whether you're watching it or you're on campus, wherever it is, like, you should feel great because you're gonna spend some important years of your life here.
Yeah, and I love the idea that they get the opportunity to really you capture that feeling before they go on the tours because some kids don't have the opportunities or the means to get there, and you're providing that exposure for them. And then some are really trying to be intentional about planning which ones they're gonna narrow down and go see, and see if your video matches up to that feeling that they want to have when they get on campus. So either way, whether they have the means to get there or not, I think you're creating an equitable space for them to have that exposure.
That was it. And you wanna hear another interesting kind of piece of all this that
Yeah,
when we were building this, weren't thinking about it. I think no matter what, if there's an episode of the college tour, go to the campus, right? But definitely watch it because think about it when you're on the tour a little bit. And I watched this with my niece not too long ago. The personality of the student giving the tour to the personality of the person taking the tour. And that is just what it is. But when you can sit back, which is really nice about the show, is I get a whole collection of people to really get a feeling out of that.
yeah, because you hope it's gonna be someone that you click with, but you don't know who you're gonna
Yeah,
get
but
as
I
your
mean, what are
tour
the
guide.
exactly,
Right,
exactly. It's impossible to match it all up. So
right. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, will you tell us kind of like step 2 after they've been using your videos to do the searching and stuff? Y'all have a new resource too for saving, budgeting, talking about financials for college. What is that the college tour is kind of branching into?
I appreciate you bringing it up. We're really excited about this. It's called the Student Registry. As I watched my niece try to figure out college, I watched her try to figure out the financial piece of it. And it's a tricky one to figure out. And so we created the Student Registry. It's super fun. Students can create this college profile. Who are they? They can tell all about their upcoming semester. And in there's an automated like budget calculator, and they can have tuition or dorms and book supplies or coffee fund, basically create their budget for the semester and then share that with their family and friends and their community to help support them. And so there's a lot of time you'd be amazing as we started pulling the layers back of how many students out there. It's like one wrong thing, like the car broke down. It was a $1,500 problem, but now that stopped them from getting to campus and what happened before you know what their college journey was cut short. And so we wanted to create a platform where the community could come together and help support their financial needs. So it's GoFundMe for college students.
Yeah, I was gonna say we do Kickstarters and GoFundMe's for everything else, so, like, why not see how it works for the college process?
I've done it personally. There's nothing more fun than helping someone that you know or someone else's know's younger person help their journey through college. So we make it a really fun experience to raise money for each semester of college, but at the same time, keep that communication loop, right? So, someone who's supporting you gets to learn and follow your journey along as well. So it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I know that counselors are gonna have a lot to go do after this if they've never heard of the college tour, like, they have a lot of resources now at their fingertips. Will you tell us again, in case they missed it, where they can connect with the college tour and learn more about what you're doing?
Yep, super simple. Thecollegetour.com. Collegetour.com goes there as well. That is where every video lives. That is where the consular toolkit lives. Anything we do in the college tour all can be found there. And of course, Amazon Prime. I mean, the college tour airs on a lot of big platforms and around the world that offer resources. But I would say if you're a counselor out there, and also we love hearing from you. It's one of our favorite things is when a counselor's like, hey, by the way, we're doing this or we're learning this, or can you make us this? Like we read every single message that comes through. And our goal is to make sure that we're building or creating the assets that you need to help you in your job.
Well, that's super encouraging. Is there anything now that you have their captive ear right now, is there anything else you need to tell high school counselors before we sign off?
The only thing I would love, I mean, obviously collegetour.com would be great. And you can find stuff in the student registry, but definitely for your seniors that are now choosing schools right now and are about to, they're getting months away from kind of taking off. Like if they could push out the student registry, that'd be awesome. We're really, it's something we've been working on for a couple of years and just went live, and appreciate you bringing it up. But like, it's a great resource, and we hope it helps students lighten their load as they take off for their college experience.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Alex, for being on the show. I know it's going to be helpful for counselors to hear.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, y'all, the College Tour has so many free resources for counselors. So we had to do a whole podcast episode just so that I made sure that you knew all about them. And this conversation with Alex, I think, was a good first step in that direction. Maybe you're disappointed that I couldn't get him to tell us his favorite college, or at least one that was front of his mind right now. But to be honest, I would have surprised myself if he gave us something that specific to a question like that. We definitely know how unique this search is for each and every one of our students. So I feel like it probably would be hard to narrow down and pick your favorite college, even just as the host who's bringing that information to other people. So from here, head on over and check out the College Tour on all of your favorite social media channels, including YouTube, where you can watch a lot of videos, and their website. Everything is linked in your podcast player show notes or counselorclick.com/episode 158. And I've also included some links to small group and college resources from my TPT store that I think you'll find helpful, that'll serve you after listening to this. So thanks again to Alex for being a great guest, and I'll talk to you high school counselors next week when I'm actually bringing you yet another guest episode. I hope you're not getting tired of them. I'll see you then. Thanks for listening to today's episode of High School Counseling Conversations. All the links I talked about today can be found in the show notes and also at counselorclick.com/podcast. Be sure to hit follow wherever you listen to your podcast so that you never miss a new episode. Connect with me over on Instagram. Feel free to send me a DM at counselorclick. That's CLIQUE. I'll see you next week.